Hello, friends, and thank you for joining us here for episode 15. We've returned with a sci-fi adventure, Leviathan Wakes, by James S.A. Corey. If you're not familiar, this is the start of a series that is also now a TV show called The Expanse. How far would you go to end a war you started? What would you sacrifice? Keep listening to find out more.
Hello and welcome to the Mess Hall Hangout. Our book this week you can see is on the plate in front of you. Leviathan Wakes. We'll get into a little bit more about that here in a second, but I'm going to hand Master of Ceremonies over to the lovely Annie and let her carry the show. Thank you very much.
This month we did Leviathan Wakes. We went back to science fiction, which was pretty cool. I don't know if you guys read more about like the author, but it's just a pen name and it's actually like two people, and I think they wrote they came from Game of Thrones or something. I don't remember. They have a background in other science fiction, which I thought was like really cool. I don't think it's maybe it's not Game of Thrones, but I know it's another like sci-fi something, but of course I didn't write it down because I don't know. I just didn't write it down. So this was also like another like big beefy boy.
They worked as a personal assistant to George R.R. Martin.
Okay, see, I was right. Thank you. Thanks. So this one, just because of its size, I was like intimidated a little bit because I'm like, oh my god, is it another Seven Eves where I have to like learn quantum mechanics to like read the book? But this was really cool and a really fun read, and it's also The Expanse. If you watch the series, I have tried, but I just can't get into it. So watch the series if you don't want to read the book.
Well, is the series any good?
I watched the first 2 seasons.
That's not a yes or a no.
Well, there was only 2 seasons out at the time, so yes.
I think we had this discussion where it was like, it started.
It got canceled after season 2 and moved from Sci-Fi to Amazon or something.
It got better production after season 2.
Yeah,
so like
it got delayed for like a year and a half, and at that point, I wasn't paying attention to it anymore, so I just haven't finished it.
Yeah, so it got better production value. So I think for me, it's still like I just have a really rough time with the first episode. I'm like, I don't like this. So then I just don't continue, but I probably should. But so we did this one. Here's like, I'm gonna give you a brief summary. And then I have like some plot points that we can like go through. But so Leviathan Wakes is set in a future where humanity has colonized much of the solar system, facilitated by the invention of the Epstein drive, a fusion power engine capable of producing continuous acceleration. Earth is now governed by the United Nations, and the Martian Congressional Republic act as competing superpowers, maintaining an uneasy military alliance in order to exert dual... I'm probably pronouncing this word wrong. Hegemony. Yeah. Over the peoples of the asteroid belt, known as Belters. These people live within space stations built into the interior of asteroids and carry out the gritty blue-collar work that provides the system with essential natural resources. Belters, whose bodies tend to be thin and elongated, owing to their low-gravity environments, are largely marginalized by the rest of the solar system polity. This class conflict particularly manifests itself in the Outer Planets Alliance, the OPA, a network of loosely aligned militant groups which seeks to combat the Belt's exploitation at the hands of the Inners, who in turn have collectively branded the OPA as a terrorist organization. That's just like scratching the surface of what this book was about.
Welcome to space politics.
Yeah, welcome
it's
to
a space
politics.
opera. Yeah, right?
A space opera, which I never really like knew the term space opera. So then like when I was like, oh, what is a space opera? And you guys are all like, oh, like Star Wars and this and that. And like then it just kind of like the pieces all fell together. It made sense then. And this one was like really fun, and it alternated. Like we have two main characters, Holden, who's the military guy, I guess, and then Detective Miller, who's like your classic noir kind of esque detective in space.
My favorite character.
He had I feel like he had the most growth, honestly. I really liked him. Holden kind of got on my nerves sometimes because I'm like, you're too nice, man. You're too nice. He's kind of soft, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's just a piece of it. Did we all enjoy it or not, I guess? Did anybody not like the book?
No, it was fine.
Didn't you say it got you wanting to play like No Man's Sky?
It got me wanting to play a sci-fi game.
Yeah, and I had the same experience. It made me want to play some sort of space game. So I tried actually Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky because I already had played No Man's Sky, but jump back into that, especially seeing Aaron play it.
That's kind of cool.
Didn't
like
make you want to play a space game bad enough to go back to Star Citizen.
No, did not.
No.
Which is a thing. That's a statement.
So essentially we keep flip-flopping between Holden and Miller until, well, no, the whole book still keeps flopping between them. Even when we like the storylines converge, because the incident that happens at the beginning of the book is our main female character, who is, I like her too, Julie, is infected with something, the proto molecule. As
We
we
don't know
learn.
that at the beginning, though, do we?
We
No.
know she's
At the,
like
at the beginning, she's just a hostage.
She's like floating around.
And then like she escapes because like everybody disappears, and she's like, oh, my captives left. Where did they go? So she leaves to go investigate. And I thought it was weird, and I had to like reread the paragraph and the sentence a few times of like what she discovered when she got to the control room, I think. Because she was like, I was looking and it was like somebody's face or something.
Oh,
And
I think it was
like,
in the reactor room.
Right.
yeah. And she's like, what the fuck?
I thought the prologue was really, really cool. Really
Yeah.
good way to start a story. Very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that,
it leaves...
So after we finished this, I went back and watched the first couple episodes of the show. And that is probably one of the coolest scenes in the show. When she walks into the reactor room and like just the way they visualize that as like a person coming out of a bunch of goo attached to a reactor.
I was like, for sure, I was reading that incorrectly. I was like, what is happening? But the descriptives I thought were really cool. And then later on, when we get to the belt and stuff and they describe it even further, I thought that was really neat. So Julie is part of this, is on this ship held captive. We don't know what she found because that's how the prologue ends, is she found this thing, and then we go right into Holden, I think. And Holden works for a belter company that goes to asteroids and gets ice for water to bring to the belt colonies. So that's his blue collar job. But I guess in this world, if there's a distress signal and you pick it up, isn't it like illegal to not respond to it or something? They were like, if you're within range, it's your obligation to go check it out.
Yeah, you're obligated. It's like, you know, out there, there's no way you can think somebody else is going to come along. Like if you hear it, you know, you're probably already too late, but you still have to go check it out.
Right.
It's almost the beginning of every space story like this, like Alien. It's the same way. Like you hear a signal and, well, we're obligated to go check it out. We have to go check it out.
I guess I'll check out this distress signal. Nothing bad could happen.
Well,
It's
even
like a classic.
yeah, and they kind of played that out with, you know, the captain talking to Holden, like, you know, we could just you know, look the other, and like Holden's like, no, you already started slowing down. We're already doing this. Like you can see from the very beginning that Holden wants to play the goody two shoes.
Yep.
He's the good guy. He's our hero. So they pick up the distress signal and they go see what it is. So the captain of the ship sends Holden and his crew to go find out who the distress signal is coming from. So he's got an engineer, Naomi, a pilot, Alex, and another engineer, Amos, and then a medic, Shed, and then Holden, and they all go out and investigate the signal. They see the aftermath, like somebody blew open. It was like came from the inside, I think is what they determined, like the explosion where the hole came out of. And they find what is sending the distress signal, and I don't know how to describe it. It was made from parts, Martian parts.
They found a beacon, but it wasn't like the ship's beacon. It was obviously like a rigged up beacon, which caused Holden to say, okay, we're pulling out. This is weird. This shouldn't be this way. And then like
as soon as they decide to leave, another ship pops up and destroys the Canterbury, which is the ship that he came from.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody dies. Everybody on that ship is now like vaporized, and I was like, what the fuck? They just killed the entire crew. All of these people, like, where are they gonna go back to? Because now they're like stranded. So I was a little concerned about that, and I was like, it just blew my mind that like this happened so quickly in the book. I thought they'd wait a little longer for something like big like this to happen, but whatever. It was pretty cool. So they end up, the Canterbury, their original ship, ends up being vaporized. Holden, who found out that the signal was fake, was made with parts
from the Mars like military.
Right. And he decides to broadcast this to the entire solar system. Which would you have done that?
No.
Like, do you think everybody should have known?
No.
Yeah,
because of what
probably
happened.
should have, but not that way.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm conflicted.
He spends so much time trying to convince everybody that he did it the right way and that he didn't blame Mars, but he also did not blame them. Everything he showed everybody pointed to them. So what else would he expect the conclusion to be?
Right. Like,
that's a terrible way to do it.
I just stated the facts, but it's still like Martian parts. So therefore, you're kind of accusing Mars of doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's kind of like
part of them.
I'm just saying what happened. I'm just saying what, and it's like, okay, bro, you have to like put a little more thought into what the implications of this is. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah,
Mhm.
you gotta tell people, but like, you need to think your process through, and like, clearly, it
Which
was a
I
bad
think is
decision.
funny that you say that because he is always telling Miller to think things through because he doesn't think Miller uh does that. He thinks Miller like acts before he can ask questions.
He thinks he's impulsive.
Yeah, he's too impulsive. Um so yeah, in the same respect, I guess Holden is also too impulsive when it comes to like the universe needs to know. I just stated facts. Well, like think about your actions here, buddy.
He's
So that
trying
was
so hard to play the good guy.
too
Yeah,
far.
to a fault,
Yeah.
because I think Miller's most reactive decision was the right decision as well, that they argue about at the end, towards
Yeah.
the end.
I I think I agree with most of Miller's like impulsive actions versus like Holden's decision to uh give everybody the facts without thinking of the repercussions.
Yeah.
So they their ship is destroyed. Holden sends out this message which obviously sparks a war between Mars and the Belt. And of course Earth is going to get involved. So then there's a Martian battleship that orders Holden and his crew to come aboard and I feel like essentially just be arrested. Um, However, when they arrive to the ship that's supposed to be arresting them, there is a what is it? Other ships popped up and started shooting at them, but we don't know where they came from.
They
So-
had been following them for a while, but they never gained on them, so they just kind of ignored them and hoped they decided to turn around.
Holden had
Right.
called home base and said, "Hey, we're stuck out here." Home base said, "Fine, we're gonna send a Mars cruiser to pick you up." And Holden's like, "What the fuck? We just put that shit on Mars's blame right now." I guess okay, whatever. And then he had gotten the secret cord communications from I can't remember the acronym,
The OPA?
the OPA.
Yeah, the terrorist organization. I guess they are a terrorist organization.
No, I don't know that they are. I think they are just another faction seeking control for their own reasons.
Disgruntled belters.
They
Mm.
are definitely more. They have a whole sect that's like religious zealots, but not necessarily terrorists. Not any more than anybody else is
I mean,
in the book story.
Earth is soaking in religious zealots, so I'm not too worried about the comparison. I don't know.
No,
I think
I'm just saying they make a big deal to point out that there's a section of the OPA that's specifically Mormon and is going on this generation
Yeah.
ship that
oh, well, I thought that was just a ship that the OPA was helping to build. Because you see what happens with that ship later. I don't know that they were necessarily committed to that endeavor besides like helping a
okay,
religious group.
maybe I misunderstood then. I thought they were a separate faction of the OPA that had commissioned his station to build it.
No, I think it was an outside party.
Okay, well, never mind then.
I just know the Mormons are involved somewhere.
They're heading off to the stars.
Yeah, they are the ones behind the giant generation ship being built by the OPA. I misunderstood, I guess, and thought they were a splinter faction of the OPA.
Is that's the one at the Nauvoo? Is that the Nauvoo? The Naboo? No, the Nauvoo. Okay, so blah blah blah. Holden and the crew managed to escape the attack from the Martian ship that was going to pick them up. However, the Shed, the doctor, got his head blown off.
Yeah, by a Gauss rifle.
Yeah. Which
I
as
wouldn't
I was
say-
reading that, I thought it was like a really cool part of the book. Like I liked the descriptions from it.
I wouldn't say it was blown off as much as it was instantly missing.
It was like, how'd they describe it? They were like, all of a sudden, like his head was missing or something, and I was like, what?
Yeah, and a trail of blood going between the holes as the oxygen was being sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, that was rough. So, after analyzing the data chip that they got from the Donager, which is the ship that picked them up, we find out the mysterious stealth ships are built by Earth. So Holden makes another public broadcast sharing this information, hoping to ease tensions, but obviously it only makes things worse because that's what happens. The crew escapes aboard a renamed ship called the Rocinante. The crew is now on their way to Eros Station to find an OPA op who sent out the distress signal.
Wait,
Uh,
it wasn't a distress signal. He was just letting them know that he would be their ally if they needed him.
is that Fred?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Fred, yeah. Fred was like, yeah, meet me here. Meet me here.
If you're under duress, say lemon jello, lemon jello.
Doritos.
Blink twice. So, Detective Joe Miller is on Ceres Station, which is on the belt, and is contracted to locate Julie Mao, who is from the beginning prologue. She comes from a very wealthy family, and her family wants her back, so he calls it a kidnap job. So, he is trying to find out where she is. He's under contract to find her and bring her back to her parents. And it was all under the table. He's told by the OPA, by somebody from the OPA and his superiors to stop looking for her or bad things will happen. And then I wrote down he's fired when he refuses. But wasn't it like...
He refused to stop looking because he couldn't let go of the case after he was fired.
Right. But I'm just trying to think. I forgot like what happened at Ceres Station. They went under like martial law, and then
Yeah, and like the chief was like, I need people around I can trust, because he'd started drinking really heavily again. She's like, I can't trust you. He was like, wait, what?
Boo hoo. So he gets fired. And then Miller is connecting the dots between the ship that sent out the fake distress signal and the Canterbury being destroyed. And he goes to Eros to find Holden and the crew of the Rocinante. Miller then helps Holden and his crew survive an ambush attempt because they're getting closer to finding out what happened to Julie. And it's bad and really gross. So they find her diary. They find Julie Mao, deceased and infected with a strange organic growth. They find her diary of events leading up to her death. In it, they also find coordinates to an asteroid where one of the ships that attacked the Canterbury is located. Before leaving, Eros Station goes into lockdown with a station-wide radiation alert. Security starts shuffling people into protective shelters at the station. The alert is fake. It's been organized by PATHOGEN, an Earth-based company. Everyone
The company
being
who
placed...
made the ships.
Yeah, the company who made the ships that attacked them. Everyone is being placed in the shelters that have been infected with the same disease as Julie Mao. So, what did they determine it's airborne? No. Or you have to... get blood or something. I forgot how.
The you just have to come in contact with the brown goo.
The brown stuff, yeah. So if you're in contact with the brown goo, then you're infected. So
They hadn't been infected yet when they were put in there. They were put in there to become infected.
mm-hmm.
They
Well-
put them in the radiation shelters and then used the radiation shelters to kill them with radiation.
Yeah.
Because the virus feeds on radiation, and that way they
Yeah.
could be hosts.
They're filtering them into the shelters to feed the goo, essentially. And then I thought this was funny. I was like, of course there's zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to discover like what's happening, Miller and Holden went into one of these shelters and immediately got radiation poisoning. So that's fun.
Did Miller actually
And-
go inside, or did he get it while still standing outside the doorway? It was so strong.
No, they followed the other guy in. Like
they both go all the way in?
they all went inside the door, and like within a couple of steps, the guy they were following just fell over, and then they both sort of like hustled back to the door. It happened
then
very
they, like-
quickly, but they all
I
got
thought-
exposed.
I thought
Yeah.
Holden was the only one that went in. I thought Miller stayed back by the door and still got it, but it's been a while since I read it.
It's fine.
No, they both went in, and then they came out and they're like, "Oh shit, we're now like infected with radiation. We only have like
Mm-hmm.
X amount of time to live."
Yeah, they're like phones or pocket devices or whatever started throwing radiation alarms.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Pit Boys.
We're merging
They
worlds.
said they're like, what does it mean when it's red and it doesn't go away? I've never seen this before.
So they end up following the coordinates because they end up escaping,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Otherwise, this book would be a lot shorter. So they get on the Rocinante, and now Miller and Holden are together. They follow the coordinates left by Julie to find the stealth ship responsible for the Canterbury's destruction. They find a video explaining the origin of the organism that's infecting everyone on Arrow Station. It was a biological replication mechanism created by extrasolar aliens with the intent on reaching Earth and hijacking its early biosphere in order to create something for its own purpose, but we don't know what it originally wanted to do. But it got trapped in an asteroid circling Saturn, so it never made it to Earth. PATHOGEN discovered it on Phoebe, Saturn's moon, and dubbed it the proto-molecule. They're also the ones behind its release on Eros. It was an experiment by PATHOGEN to discover what the proto-molecule was designed to originally do, which I thought was like some kind of sick test.
Didn't
just
they call it the
destroyed.
Phoebe bug too at one point
Yeah,
early in
yeah,
the book?
Yes,
That's what Julie referred to it as, the Phoebe
that's where
bug.
it was discovered.
Yeah.
Phoebe bug, the PATHOGEN.
Because I don't think they called it the proto molecule until pretty far into the book. For a while, they were just calling it the Phoebe
Phoebe.
bug
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't know what it was yet or what it did.
So, with the help of the OPA, our contact Fred, Miller and the Rocinante crew attack the PATHOGEN secret lab in the belt and capture lead scientist Anthony Dresden, who was the guy in the video that they watched. Miller executes or murders Dresden without warning. This makes Holden mad. The proto-molecule cannot fall into anyone else's hands and must be destroyed, is the consensus. So the station or the ship that the Mormons commissioned is called the Navo, and they decide to take that and launch it at Arrow Station
Yep.
to destroy it.
Hmm. Because it's a giant host factory for
Yes,
PATHOGEN's test of the molecule.
Yeah, it's just a fucked up mess. So they're like, oh yeah, that's such a great idea. And then they also, isn't it the backup plan where they send people to Eros and plant some explosive devices?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they anchor ships to all the docks with explosives in them. So if somebody tries to come land before the Navu gets there, it will destroy the dock, so they can't land and slow them down.
Right. So Miller decides to stay on the infected station, which is fine. So Miller stays and then has an epiphany and realizes that the proto molecule is Julie, or part of Julie is in the proto molecule. And he realizes like Arrow Station is trying to get back to Earth because like Julie wants to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So he walks around Arrow Station to try to find the command center and see if he can find Julie, and she's there kind of.
Yeah, so I guess roll it back a step. After the Eros experiment got going, eventually it started like actually sending out signals of just itself as it grew and changed and everything. At some points it sounded weird and half words and bad AI, and then eventually it sounded more like singing and then actual words, and like it sounded like it was just reading back people's correspondence at one point. And then Miller listened to this like off and on, like from the beginning, because he felt like he was a part of it, and it still called out to him. And like his roommate was this young kid who like they were going to dance raves, and the sound was getting turned into rave music or some shit. All that to say, the sounds being shipped out of Eros were very like constantly in Miller's ear. When he wasn't talking to somebody else on a call, he was listening to the radio, and he began to notice a pattern after he had like gotten down there on it, and certain phrases and things that he had heard on it all lined up to match with his profile, this mental profile he built of Julie in his investigation of her. Things she had said, things that she would have said. And so it clicked for him just about at the same time as the Mormon giant ship is coming in for a crash.
And as they were this plan of crashing the Navo ship into Eros, Eros did a maneuver. The proto-molecule did a maneuver that no human spacecraft could do, and it dodged quickly the incoming impact that was going to happen with the Mormon ship. And they were all like, whoa, like we've never seen a ship operate like that before. We don't have the technology to just dodge an incoming attack that quickly.
Yeah, and Miller made sure to Miller mentioned that he didn't even feel any acceleration on the surface.
Yeah, exactly, because he's on it, and he didn't even feel it move. So that's
his perspective. They just missed.
Yeah.
But he noticed that the sky was moving. But didn't feel it like he expected.
Yeah. He was starting to see rocks and stuff break off
and
bounce around on the surface.
Right. So he notices that he's still in contact with Holden and is telling him all of this. And then he's like, I know where it's going. It's going to Earth. I need to find Julie and see if I can convince her and the proto-molecule to not go to Earth. What else? Something just popped into my head about it. I forgot. So he goes to talk to Julie. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So like all of the gibberish and stuff that was coming through that Miller was listening, I really enjoyed like reading it just because I'm like, oh, it's like this proto-molecule has absorbed how many? Like that millions of people. And so millions of brains are just firing. So of course it's going to be like mostly gibberish as it like learns and grows. So I thought that was a cool like thing happening where like all of these minds are getting melded together, but nobody knows what's happening, so it just like is emitting this like nonsense words and stuff. But Julie is the primary mind, I guess. So he finds Julie, talks her into the plan was you either get to land on the sun or Venus, but we don't want you to go to Earth, even though she just desperately wants to go home. So originally I thought they convinced her to go to the sun, or am I wrong?
No, they wanted to. I don't think they ever convinced her to do that.
Right,
Yeah.
like she
They gave her.
chose Venus.
They offered up Venus as an option.
Mm-hmm. So then she has enough agency to be convinced by Miller to direct the infected station away from Earth. It crashes into Venus, and we presume it killed everybody. But obviously not. The proto-molecule then starts doing stuff.
Did it crash into Venus or did it go into orbit around Venus?
It crashed.
Yeah,
Because
like
I-
splits
Into the
apart.
service.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, cool. It crashed into Venus. Like, the end. But I liked the there's an excerpt of the epilogue, which I thought was really cool too. So it ends with it crashing into Venus, but obviously the proto-molecule is still like doing something over there. We don't know what, but we're gonna find out eventually.
Creating Sauron. It's building the two towers.
Does it even know? Who knows?
Mm.
So
I don't know. They're far, I mean, it exists. They're far enough in the future that they may not know what it is anymore.
it could be a classic. A
I
classic.
mean, it already is a classic.
A super
True.
classic.
Oh,
So that's the end of the first book. The second book is Caliban's War, which goes into Miller is dead. I guess what happens at the end of the book, we get to see something from Fred's perspective. And Fred wants Holden to be more involved with something, but Holden's like, yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah. Holden was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Which is fair, because like everything he touched essentially like got destroyed.
Yep.
Which can't be a good feeling. Yeah, literally like every ship he was on, not immediately, but sometimes immediately, got blowed up. So
Yeah, he wasn't on that Mars ship for more than a day.
and then, yep, see you later. So I thought this was a cool little sci-fi adventure. I look forward to reading the second one because I like the epilogue helped. It got me going for the second one, so eventually we'll do that. But I think we already answered some of these questions. Do you think Holden was correct in his broadcast? No. He shouldn't be allowed to broadcast anything through the solar system. Probably.
Freedom of speech, Annie.
I can do whatever I want.
Yep.
Say whatever I want. Even if it causes
Even if everybody dies. Yep. Yep.
so much destruction. Ugh.
Yeah, it was a. I'm not saying it was the wisest choice. I'm just saying, you know.
I
Everybody-
appreciate too the lack of romance, I guess, because I feel like male authors don't do well with romance, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
What? No.
So I thought it was nice that it wasn't like, of course, because it's a female chief engineer, like they're gonna end up hooking up, like duh, it's just a thing. And then they do, but I do like the discussion they had, because she's like, you have a reputation and you're just doing this because I'm the only female around.
She's like, I'm the only one still, only female alive.
Yeah, pretty much. So I like that. I like their little romance at the end, because he had to really like think, like, do I like her for her, or am I just like bored?
Yep. I like that she pointed that out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, kudos, good job. That was some good writing. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Do you feel Miller's transition from a rather mundane, pessimistic asteroid detective to his importance in the later chapters are in line with Miller's character, or does it seem like an out-of-character arc? So, I liked his arc. I don't know if I'd say it was out of character. I didn't mind it. I kind of liked how he had Julie in his head, serving as just like an extra voice.
It was like watching like Space Fight Club.
It was good. I enjoyed Miller, I think, more than I enjoyed Holden. Yeah,
Yep.
that's my.
He's one of my favorites in the show adaptation too, because
Who
he's
plays him in the show?
Thomas Jane.
Oh, that's
Oh, really?
right.
Yeah,
That's a good choice.
which is a little weird because Belters are supposed to be like tall and skinny, and he's kind of like the same size as everybody else, but it's still really good. Him and Amos are my favorite characters in the series, in the book.
I'm wondering where the second one's gonna go.
Venus.
I think of a good one. Amos? He's famous Amos.
I was going to go to Venus.
Oh, they're going to Venus. Sorry. They are going to Venus. Maybe I'm hungry and I want the famous Amos cookies that I have.
Oh, don't start. Don't start.
Those are good.
They're so good.
I'm holding off on my snack because it's loud.
Crunchy. We could do an ASMR book club. Everybody bring your crunchiest snack.
It's literally crunchy.
That's my favorite candy.
We'll be doing that on VH channel. Just going to put that out there. The after party will be over there.
Would you have expected Miller to just give up and start drinking after he found Julie?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, he didn't get drunk a lot. I also would have liked to hear more, like, once we found out that the protomolecule was from PATHOGEN, his old partner left and got a job with PATHOGEN. I thought something was going to happen there, but nothing was ever like expanded about his
Well,
partner.
It's
I
just
think
the guy he worked with who ended up at a place that happened to be involved in the thing they were looking into, but his partner didn't know that.
Right.
and PATHOGEN is like a huge mega conglomerate. Like,
Yeah,
so they hire
just a giant security company.
tons of people. Yeah, the secret shit in the back door. There's no way his like ex mall cop buddy has anything to do with any of that.
And he was discriminated against because he was an earther, and the rest of them working on the series station are belters, or most of them, I guess. So he got a lot of shit.
Well, I
being
mean,
preferred.
he had this universe's equivalent of like white privilege.
Mhm. Did anybody strongly identify with Holden, or mostly Miller?
Neither.
Neither.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
That's funny.
No, you go.
So
No,
for,
you.
for me, like Holden is way too goody two shoes. Like he doesn't stop and think. It drives me insane. Like he jumps to action, even if it's he believes it's true and just and right. It doesn't mean it's not misguided. So no to Holden. Miller is too jaded. He is just like fuck the world, whatever. He replaces what used to be a mental image of his
His
subconscious
wife.
as his ex-wife, right? And
Mhm.
then at some point she got turned into Julie. It's like
Mm.
he was very stuck in his own head, but at the same time, like I did want to postulate that the big difference between Miller and Holden is that Holden is looking out for what he thinks is everyone. He's trying to save the universe. He's trying to do things like on this grand scale. What kind of asshole just blasts out shit across the spectrum without like, investigating it further? Somebody who's like trying to do something big and not know what the hell they're doing. Miller, all of his decisions come from, I want to say, like survival at the singular level of himself. If he sees something going on that's going to, kill him or cause, his life to be harder, like that's where he makes his decision. It's not anything grand or like super moral, even. He's following his own code. Like he does what he wants, but
Mhm.
it still always comes down to him.
Yeah, like the decision to just like they could have kept the scientist
No,
who was in charge of everything.
no, I
And
completely agree with Miller on this one. No, you can't. He would talk his way out. You can't put people like that on trial because, like, when it's a corrupt system, you're letting them go. That's all you're doing. You're just slowing them down. You're not stopping them.
Yeah.
They're going to do it again. He had enough money and backing. This would all get swept under the table as a PR, blah blah blah, and they would just resume this research somewhere else.
Or if he was enough
he
of a
needed
headache, the company would have taken him out eventually. But he was
Right.
not going to ever see actual justice for what he did.
No, no,
his murder was justified.
I don't think so. No, I think it was more
Oh,
that
Raylan wasn't there.
it was self-defense. Like at a deep down, it was self-defense. Miller knew that this scientist was going to get everybody killed for some concept of a hope.
That's justified murder. That's what she said. It's the same thing.
You're right.
Same thing.
I think justified is like in terms of doing something as a result of something else, and this is more in terms of self-defense. Like he's protecting his future self. But yeah, same thing.
All for nothing, too.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, like the
is it? We
etymology
don't
of
know.
way.
I mean, they saved Earth.
Well, I
This
mean,
is
I mean,
funny.
he's protecting himself all to end up crashing
Oh.
into Venus and dying. Personally,
I like his
Correct.
last
Correct.
one of the last questions General had on the sheet was, how pissed do you think the Mormons are going to be about their ship?
Super pissed. As soon as I read that
No,
part,
I
I was
don't-
like, "Oh, you don't you don't piss off religious people at that level. You've made a
I don't think they'll be
mistake."
that pissed, honestly, because they missed. They can get the ship back.
Can they?
No, because it crashed. The
No,
arrow
it didn't.
Oh,
No,
shit.
it didn't
Never
crash.
mind.
It just went straight on by,
But,
and it
like,
was never mentioned again.
It wasn't mentioned
They
again, no, but they
launched it.
could have potentially recovered it because it was not a fast ship. It just had a lot of big engines.
I would also suspect that he's asking that cheekily, knowing that they will be upset about it.
Mm.
Oh, I'm sure they'll still be mad about it either way, really. But I don't know that it was necessarily lost like it would have been had it actually hit Eros.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, like, the trajectory that it's on, like, where is it going now?
Well, it was going to. I thought something
It
like,
could still be going straight for the sun.
yeah.
That was where they were going to aim it originally.
True.
So maybe
Which
that's
is why I
still
kind
where
of
it's
expected
going.
another mention of it, maybe. Like, oh, and we saved that ship, by the way.
Sorry, Mormons. We couldn't recover your giant ship that you paid us to make you.
Swing and a miss, y'all. It's okay.
That's our bad.
On the plus side, the sun has another quintillionth of a second worth of fuel.
Let's see. The first time General read it, he was turned off by the ending, expecting it to be another, oh no, the universe is ending. Guess this an unlikely band of misfits is gonna have to save it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also get that impression? Where do you think the next books are going? Isn't it always it's just the trope of, like, yeah, the unlikely misfits have to save the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing. Like,
Mhm.
it'll
Yeah,
never
the
not be a thing.
yeah, because they think outside the box.
These
Except for when
scrappy-
they don't by broadcasting something across the entire universe without thinking ahead.
Well, he's the misfit within the misfits. He's just the fuck up.
He is
We don't
he is
like
the
him.
only I actually really like his crew. I don't particularly like
Yeah.
Holden.
I enjoy the crew, that's for sure.
Alex and Amos are great characters.
I feel like he's so much of a moral compass for the rest of them. Like his idiocy is like outweighed by their goodness. Like for them trusting in
And-
him and all that.
Naomi is so smart, and like Amos and Alex are so good with like the weapons and everything. Like, I enjoy the crew. Holden, I could like leave. I don't need him, but the crew is solid. They've gone through a lot together. I thought it was funny too, like when they were on Arrow Station and Miller is helping them escape, and like they have to split up, and they go back to the spot where like he told Naomi and the crew to like wait for him, but like only for a
gone.
certain amount of time.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, she actually left.
Yeah, dumbass.
She's not here. She actually, no
She
way.
did it. She did the thing.
She actually followed orders.
I was like,
No, she
"Duh."
actually said that. She's like, we're not gonna die for you.
Yeah.
So you go do whatever, but you have limited time.
You have 5 minutes, and we're gonna leave, and we're not gonna stay a second more. And she was like,
I can't believe with all the stuff that was going on, they actually gave them like 5 hours before they were like going to abandon them. I'm like, that's a long time to sit on that station
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
with the shit going down that's going down and hoping nothing worse happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like all the. I guess I kind of rolled my eyes at the part where it was like, and then the zombies came out, and I'm like, really? Okay. All right. I've had enough of zombies. I've had enough of The Walking Dead season 53.
But I like how it evolved from like mostly singular beings walking around into like this much larger creature sort of thing, and like little parts of people rolling around, which was weird.
Yeah, like was it the rib cage or something?
Yeah, just a rib cage went rolling on by, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, excuse me.
It was very descriptive. Like the whole book was extremely descriptive, and I loved that part of it.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty neat. Aaron, do you have any thoughts?
I'm definitely not vibing as much, but I'm really tired of being the negative guy. So
But I like the critique on it because I also think I've told you guys this, but like I always end up like I'll read the book. Like I read when we were reading the other one, We Used to Live Here, and I was like, wow, it's so good. I'm engaged and blah blah blah. And then but you point out things in the book that I was just like, oh, that is questionable. Why didn't I think of that? So like I always just go in with rose-colored glasses thinking like these books, this is gonna be the best thing I've ever read by this author. So it's good to get the other perspective because I think I go into positive to a fault where like I just don't see the flaws in the book. So if you have negative things to say, I want to hear them because it'll make me question my own like, maybe that was stupid.
I don't know. I don't know if I feel like being that guy anymore.
Love you, Squandy.
Me too.
I would say that we obviously have this cast of characters where it's very interesting, but they're almost too stereotypical. You've got like the cowboy captain, who kind of flies by the seat of his pants. You have his trusty, beautiful second in command, right? You've got the gritty pilot, just there for the adrenaline rush, and you've got the tough mechanic, like it very much seems very like cookie cutter. That would be my one complaint is they all kind of fell into these archetypes too well. Almost, it's like I liked all of them. I'm just saying that
I liked them all. I think our introduction to Miller, immediately I was like, noir cop with a cigarette and a trench coat. Like it's raining outside and he's like having his monologue or something. So that, or I was like, that's okay. But I ended up like, really liking his character. So that was fun.
I liked all the little. I liked a lot of the little side conversations that they had going on though too, between all the different characters. It was the. I'm trying to think how I want to put that because that's not a good way to describe it. The like just in general, the dialogue in the book, I felt like there was never a point where I'm like, all right, get to the point already. What you know what I mean? Like in 70s, where it got to that point where it's like, okay, we get it. You're gonna die. Can we get to the part where you die now so we find out what's going on? It didn't have anything like that happened where it just like felt like it was dragging out. It felt like the little side conversations and stuff felt like they had a point to them.
Yeah. Instead of just nonsense quantum mechanics explain it. Like, I'm so glad they didn't feel like he needed to like explain the Epstein drive.
Yeah.
Like, the math that goes into it, because I'm like, I don't wanna. I don't want to read about that. Just tell me it
Still,
works and what it does, and I'm fine.
still a very unfortunate name that they had to go with.
Um, I guess I'll say, like, I really liked the prologue. I thought the prologue was
Julie.
neat. I just personal taste. I didn't feel like the rest of it lived up to that. Like, I was never as excited as I was after finishing the prologue, and that kind of sucks, you know, because it's like, what a
It hooks
cool
you.
mystery, and like they answered the mystery, but it just kind of wasn't as cool as I thought it would be, and it was kind of corny to me. Um, and also, the thing that I didn't like the most, which is not even really that bad, is I call it the architect, uh, the architect like hole that you fall into with stories like this, where they break into the room and they play the video, and as the audience and them just sit down and watch this exposition dump about here's what the proto molecule is, and here's how we found it, and here's the players and all this stuff. And it's like when Neo finds the architect, and then it's just like this
Mm.
explanation. And that part was like, I really hated that part, because I felt like they could have, it's just so much more fun to have that information slowly doled out to you in interesting ways. And they did that to a certain extent, but at a certain point they fell in the architect hole, where they have to find a tape, and they watch the tape and it explains everything.
The whole
And
mystery is solved, essentially.
yeah, so I don't like that part. It was fine. I think also too, maybe like I was pretty excited about it. People, things like this that have a very small and dedicated fan base, you're either going to believe, or you're going to fall in line with them or not. And I feel like I was really hoping that it would be a new thing, that I was like, oh hell yeah, like I this if I could go back and read this for the first time, you know, I bet a lot of people feel that way. And like, it just wasn't it. But um
I mean,
you know,
yeah, sometimes it'll hit and sometimes it won't. But yeah, like I thought the Julie, the whole setup really like hooked me in, because you want to know why. What did she find? Why did she feel like she needed to blow up the ship and destroy it, you know? I liked that. Do you want to talk about the next book?
I haven't read it.
The one for
Why do you
December.
want to read it?
I don't, but I will for the book club.
You don't want to read it.
It wouldn't be something that I would do on my own time.
So we could pick a different one.
No, I will do it for the book club. It's just like there are a lot of books that I read with you guys that I wouldn't on my own time.
I
I am
thought
totally
because of
fine.
mm, because of what happened with spoilers and stuff, I didn't want to like make us read the next installment, because I would read Caliban's War. But
Yeah,
this is
I'll be
clearly
honest,
like,
that soured it quite a bit for me, where I probably would have wanted to, and I'm kind of good now. But like I said, because it's a group thing, like I like hearing your guys' thoughts on all this, because I don't have that many. So
I don't know what's
you
happening
don't have
because
that many
I
thoughts.
I was
yeah,
busy at
I
work
thought
and
it
I
was fine.
didn't see the spoiler. It was taken care of before I checked the Discord.
It It was wild. We had
Oh, I
Probably.
actually too. I hated the relationship stuff. I thought that they write kind of like incels, and it was really, really cringy. I don't think any of the love stuff between Miller and Julie or Holden and what's her name, like Holden and
Naomi.
his
Naomi.
Naomi was like fantasy fulfillment. Like
Mm.
it was very weird, and like that's not it. Like you kind of at a certain point you got to accept it, and then it just works out. And like I don't know, bro, that's just weird. I didn't like it.
You'd have preferred like no relationship stuff.
Well,
I don't like it at all.
the relationship with Julie, I don't think was supposed to be normal. It's like his subconscious schizophrenic shit going on. Like,
Yeah, I'm not saying normal or abnormal or not. It's just whether
well,
it
I mean, I
reads
just
how
mean
it
like it
reads.
wasn't the same type of relationship. You know what I mean? Like it was him obsessing
Absolutely
over.
not. Yeah.
Oh, it was him obsessing over essentially himself because he was just talking to himself the whole time he was talking to
Well,
her.
he's like, because
never
he
spoke
doesn't
with her.
actually know her, he's just
Yeah.
projecting what he
He's
wants.
just projecting what he infers she would be thinking from all the background that he read from the case files, but it's
But
really all
but
just
then
him.
that turns out to be true because he can tell it's her as the proto molecule,
He
Right, which
just
is weird.
right?
I thought he pieced it together because she said like the name of her ship or something that she had when she was a kid.
She started with "Don't touch it." That those words came out as the ship moved initially, and then she was like, "You'll never catch me," like something along those lines. Like it's like she was racing.
Right. Which is what she used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he
For
does
Rich.
intimately know her. He's not just making it up. Because that is
Well,
something about her.
Correct.
in a fulfilling plot holes kind of way, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, he inferred enough to figure it out from the knowledge that he gained from her background, but the fact that they never spoke any conversation to each other because she was dead before he even found out she existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Leviathan Wakes. Pretty fun. Pretty fun read. We'll see how this little break from the series does in December because we're doing Vile Bodies. I don't usually read books that are like that old.
That's an interesting take. Okay.
You don't
I
read
don't
vintage
know.
books?
Yeah, the vintage books.
Published in 1930. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought cuz after the whole like spoiler thing, after a discussion with Aaron too, I was like, okay, I guess it makes sense to probably just take a break uh from the series because things got heated-ish and like it's fine cuz we all worked it out. Um but didn't want to just like dive in with all of this like spoiler knowledge of like ugh, gotta slog through the book to find out the spoiler, like I already know what happens kind of thing. So this will be a nice little break. So that'll be December. Yeah, that's all I got on this book. We need to read a book that Aaron likes.
We did, but you guys weren't that hot on it. I just think we have different tastes. And sometimes that can be fun, and sometimes it can be
Frustrating.
Not fun.
You did read Name of the Wind, so like kudos for you for that one.
I will read anything you put in front. I haven't
For getting through
stopped a
that
book. Yeah, I always give it college effort.
I don't have a lot of like did not finish books. I try to complete them even if I don't enjoy it. I still try to I'm like, "Oh, I don't like leaving it unfinished."
Hmm.
So, that's just me. But I thought this puzzle would be like easy.
Because it was a mini puzzle.
Yeah,
Wrong.
exactly. But
Just
I'm
kidding.
having
It's just
trouble.
miniature sized. It's not actually a small puzzle.
God. But I'm like, I think I got all the edge
These
pieces.
pieces are fucking tiny.
Yeah.
They're so small.
They're so
So
tiny.
little. But
All right, Vile Bodies next
Cool.
month.
Vile bodies.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us.
What a whirlwind. I'm looking forward to continuing this series in my own time. If you've read or watched The Expanse, please leave a comment. Next month took a turn, and we decided to do a year-end recap. You'll get to hear our favorite reads and not so favorite reads, even some surprises. Happy belated New Year's, everyone.